The girl had just gotten divorced. Her father wanted her to marry again. Ruby smiled on the surface, but inside she felt a chill. Due to numerous fraudulent marriages, she became known as the Empire's notorious villainess. Ruby stammered for a while. I was worried you might be in a bad mood because of the early morning incident. Walk with her from sunrise to sunset. He followed behind his wife, quietly taking her hand. I'm glad you're all right. He had wanted to say this to her for a long time, but never found the chance. Ruby swayed slightly, then reminded herself such happiness is fleeting. She was afraid of making mistakes by being presumptuous, which would lead to irreversible consequences. Then Iskai asked about the little magical beasts that accompanied her when she ran away. Did you meet them for the first time in the forest? Seeing Ruby's panicked expression, Iskai understood. Ruby had no choice but to explain how she met Bubble and the others. Surprisingly, Iskai listened quietly until she finished. Only when she carefully asked him how to deal with Bubble and the others did he say he had already let them go. Ruby finally breathed a sigh of relief. She thought it was over, but unexpectedly this guy asked about that day, like if she met anyone near the temple. Ruby hesitated. Was this another trap he was setting for her? She couldn't possibly mention hearing Roland cursing him at the temple. So she decisively shook her head, indicating she hadn't. This guy sighed. It seems you weren't running away but were kidnapped. But before she could finish, the man turned and waved his hand. Since you've seen I'm fine, you can go back now. Ruby laughed nervously. Haha, it can't really be called kidnapping. This guy took her hand again. He pulled her onto his lap. I also want to know who you met in the forest, besides the friends who accompanied you when you ran away. I also want to hear about what else you experienced. The two of them talked for a long time like this. Ruby learned about the differences between magical creatures. Some look like animals, some look like monsters, and there was a particularly scary type called undead. So what I encountered on my first night here was at the monster type. That's called a spike. It's similar to what you encountered in the palace pond. Ruby knew well that her tendency to attract mushrooms was troublesome. This guy said it was also his first time encountering someone like her, but he decided to prioritize her safety, so she shouldn't contact magical creatures for now. It was only then that Ruby suddenly realized how kind her husband was being to her. She had thought he would treat her as a witch, or consider everything a plot by her family, just as she was feeling touched. Iskai abruptly asked, do you want to tell your family? Ruby of course said no. But she didn't expect Iskai to readily agree. Then let it be our secret for now. The cold CEO had transformed into a doting husband. Ruby hurriedly chased after him, grabbing the hem of his clothes. First, he sought out those who had bullied his wife. Without a word, he beat them up, then warned them, if you dare to appear before my wife again, don't blame me for killing you. The next day, the entire Duke's mansion began renovations. Just because Ruby had mentioned that the southern gardens were vibrant with colorful flowers, chirping birds, and fountains, he decided to create such a garden for his wife. This action shocked everyone. The old Duke even said that his son's unusual behavior might mean his end was near. Ruby broke into a cold sweat under the stares of her father-in-law and sister-in-law. She had only mentioned it casually yesterday. She didn't expect that her husband, who had looked so disdainful at the time, would take her words so seriously. However, Aaron thought it was good. It was time to change this desolate place, but the old Duke thought it was just a passing whim. Remembering how his son had sternly warned him not to bother his daughter-in-law, he didn't dare to change the decision casually. He could only indirectly ask Ruby if she was feeling better and if it was time to address that important issue. After all, it would be beneficial for Ruby too. For some reason, Ruby didn't feel averse to this topic this time. Instead, she felt a vague sense of anticipation. That day, Ruby also got her own personal maid. Wait a moment, the man reflexively swatted her hand away, knocking over the fruit basket. No, that was my bonus equipment. The young girl was energetic and seemed very clever. My brother and I both think a young child is more suitable to care for you than an older, mediocre person. Ruby felt a bit overwhelmed by the favor. Although she wasn't quite used to it, thinking that she wouldn't have to bribe maids to do things anymore, she was quite happy. The young maid, excited by her mistress's beauty and gentleness, bowed repeatedly, saying, I will serve you wholeheartedly from now on. Look at this mutual affection between mistress and servant. Then Aaron told Ruby that before the sword fighting competition, there would be a banquet held specifically for Ruby. Ruby was instantly confused. Since the poisoning incident during the tour, her reputation and social circles had worsened. Under these circumstances, to still hold a banquet for her. What was this guy really up to? And now there was an even more troubling matter at hand. Replying to her brother's letter. You see, although her brother rambled on in his letter, he would never allow Ruby to reply half-heartedly. Moreover, her brother didn't want her to be happy here. He must have been delighted to hear about the commotion caused by her running away. Besides, fruits are very rare in the north. She hurriedly crouched down to pick up the fruits. After finishing her reply, Ruby was once again invited to the temple. She thought she was going to be reprimanded, but unexpectedly the archbishop inquired about her health. He even apologized for her being implicated in his niece's poisoning. This sincere demeanor made it impossible to tell if he had any connection with her brother. Finally, the archbishop wanted to keep Ruby for dinner. When he heard that Ruby had plans to dine with her husband, the archbishop's reaction was surprisingly hesitant. I see your relationship is growing closer. That's wonderful, as Ruby found his reaction strange. The puppet-like assistant came over. My lady, it's great to see you've recovered your health. Thank you, but what brings you here? It turned out the young assistant had been sent by Iskai to escort Ruby to dinner. The archbishop sincerely praised. It seems the duke truly cherishes you, my lady. Ruby laughed it off, but inwardly she couldn't believe it. How could that guy possibly? But come to think of it, his behavior has changed a lot recently. He even assigned this young assistant as my personal guard. He seems to be overly protective of me. Then there was a table full of dishes comparable to a royal feast for lunch. The man questioned what she was doing now. His angry tone made it seem like she was the one at fault. Ruby suppressed her anger and apologized. May I ask, do you always eat like this? Occasionally, we can't always travel between the mansion and investigation sites. Sometimes we eat at restaurants. When too busy, we simply don't eat, seeing that she hadn't touched her plate for a while. This guy asked if she had no appetite, or did the archbishop give you something delicious? He seemed to be jealous. Ruby got a bit angry. Do you think I casually accept things from others? At this moment, this guy put a sausage on her plate. To withstand the cold in the north, you need to eat more. This gentle and caring gesture made Ruby pause for a moment. But soon she resumed her fawning attitude towards her husband. I've fallen for your gentle offensive again. Thank you, I'll enjoy it. The couple's obliviousness to others made the knights present awkwardly curl their toes. By the way, I'm curious about the theme of the banquet. This guy seemed indifferent. Does a banquet need a theme? Isn't it just about eating, drinking, and having fun? What a typical male response. Never mind, taking this opportunity, she needed to prepare to seduce her husband. But the man looked down at her condescendingly. Why are you picking up things from the ground? Before she knew it, specific images appeared in her mind. Like this and then like that, everyone chatted while eating, and the topic turned to the sword-fighting competition. At the mention of the evil dragon, Ruby felt uneasy, where still someone suddenly brought up her brother. The room fell silent instantly. That tactless knight had no idea he'd caused trouble. What's wrong? Is that incorrect? Ruby smiled awkwardly. I heard that was indeed the plan. She knew well everyone present must have heard rumors about her and her brother. Iskai should know something too, so she didn't want to mention her brother in front of her husband, but it seems she worried unnecessarily. Iskai continued eating and drinking as if he hadn't heard, seeing him chew the sausage in big bites. It seems this suits your taste. Are you satisfied, dear? Suddenly questioned while lost in thought, Ruby almost choked. She paused, then answered, I'm very satisfied. That's good. Do you need anything else? Ruby was momentarily speechless. Reflexively, she suddenly cupped her chin, batted her eyelashes, and said, far in the sky, close at hand, I need you. To convince her husband, she had been practicing flirtatious lines in her mind every day. Unexpectedly, her brain had formed a habit. She kept spouting seductive words to her husband at every turn. Then why don't you pick them up? Angry as she was to maintain her persona, Ruby immediately started crying. I'm sorry I made you unhappy. I just wanted to clear up the misunderstanding. Just like now, as soon as she finished speaking, the whole scene became awkward. Another moment to add to her Wanna Die collection. Watching the knights make excuses one by one to flee the scene, Ruby just wished she could find a hole to crawl into. Soon only she and Iskai were left. She tried to save face. They're so diligent. They go straight to work right after eating, but her straightforward husband didn't play along. They haven't finished eating yet. Ruby was completely speechless. Never mind, since she had already lost face anyway. She might as well bring up the topic of their first night, but this guy rejected without a second thought. Let's talk about it when you're fully recovered. Ruby protested, but I'm already fine, don't push yourself. Hearing this, Ruby excitedly slammed the table and stood up. I'm not pushing myself. If you don't believe me, look, with a loud bang, the entire table shook. The water glass in front of this guy fell over, spilling water all over his arm. Oh no, Ruby hurriedly apologized. I'm sorry, are you hurt anywhere? This guy seemed unconcerned. He rummaged in his pocket and pulled out the handkerchief Ruby had given him before. She thought he would have thrown it away as trash. Unexpectedly, he carried it with him. Her heart couldn't help but flutter. Lunch ended in this atmosphere. As for the new little maid, she proved to be very loyal as expected. What misunderstanding? The misunderstanding that I'm already looking for excuses to break off the marriage. I know it's natural for you to hate me. Even Lucy, who had been indifferent to Ruby before, had to follow suit and become more attentive. Time flew by, and soon it was the day of the banquet. With the maid's careful grooming, Ruby looked as beautiful as an elf. Even Aaron was stunned. Our Ruby is truly adorable. Since their heart-to-heart talk with Aaron last time, their interactions had become much more natural. Although she didn't know how long these peaceful days would last, she was already very content now. Thinking about attending a banquet held for her for the first time, she felt a bit nervous. What if no one paid attention to her? What if this guy refused to dance with her? As she was lost in these thoughts, she ran into her husband, who had come looking for her. What on earth are you wearing? The blatantly visible six-pack abs were a bit eye-catching, but also kind of handsome. What to do? Hearing her husband say he had just finished a mission and rushed over. However, the man just sneered, denying that he hated her. This was quite a pleasant surprise for Ruby. It seemed crying worked. The battle plan was successful. She was completely stunned. Which pervert invented this kind of battle armor? Was it to seduce opponents during battle? While she was in a daze, her husband extended his hand. You went to the last two banquets alone. From now on, I'll accompany you. So he hadn't changed out of this outfit because he didn't want her to feel lonely anymore. Ruby couldn't take her eyes off him. After all, not everyone could look good in this outfit. Sure enough, as soon as the couple appeared, the noble ladies in the audience gasped. My husband wore this outfit too, but why is the effect so different? Even the knights were full of envy. Only this guy could pull off this kind of outfit. After the discussions about the outfit died down, next came the voices discussing Ruby. Miss Yulia almost lost her life, and she still has the mood to throw a banquet. She really doesn't take others seriously. Ruby heard these comments clearly. The subject of the gossip also appeared timely. Long time no see. Madam, I heard you've recovered, but you still look quite haggard. After Ruby greeted Yulia, she asked curiously, why didn't your brother come with you? Unexpectedly, this time the backup was her mother. She said she just came to say hello and would leave, but her eyes glanced at Ruby with ill intent. But no one could have guessed that her last marriage would ultimately become a death sentence for her family. Then she looked at him with starry eyes. You're not lying to me, are you? But unexpectedly, this time she was met with silence. That look reminded Ruby of the mother who abused him in his previous life. His mind went blank, his hands started trembling unconsciously. Fortunately, this guy was holding it tightly. Ruby endured the discomfort and exchanged pleasantries with Yulia's mother. Unexpectedly, the other party's words had hidden meanings. Compared to the solemn North, the South seems more free-spirited, doesn't it? Enough, this guy directly intimidated the old woman into silence. Only then did she happily leave. As she left, she didn't forget to vent her anger on her daughter. Are your ears just decorations, looking all disheveled like that? It seemed the little green tea also suffered from the old green tea at home. Ruby unconsciously touched her own hair, thinking she was glad she wasn't disheveled. You look very nice like this. Her husband's compliment instantly improved her mood. Shall we dance? Of course. Iskai put his hand on his wife's shoulder. They walked to the center of the dance floor together. Even now, Ruby was a bit shocked. In the original story, Iskai had never danced with anyone. Was he making an exception for her now? Oh no, she might have overdone it after a long while. Are there any popular dances in Roma? I'll try my best to keep up. The two danced gracefully on the stage. Pressed against her husband's 8-pack abs, Ruby's mind was in chaos. She had originally intended to seduce him, but how did she end up being the one seduced? You're beautiful. This guy gazed at her tenderly. Their dance became smoother and smoother. Ruby couldn't help but praise, as expected of a man perfect in every way. She let go of the man's hand, spinning and jumping around him, shining like an elf. This guy followed his wife's steps, watching her relaxed and radiant smile. He was momentarily dazed. As the dance music came to an end, he cooperatively extended his hand, pulling his wife into his arms, ending the dance with a dip amidst the enthusiastic applause of everyone. Someone was sinking into bitter memories. He couldn't believe it at all. That man who grew up with him had not a shred of affection for him. Iskai sighed. He actually crouched down to pick up the fruits on the ground. Don't bother with these useless things in the future. Yulia had thought that this guy always treated him differently from others. But until his brother was beaten up by him, his beautiful dream was completely shattered, looking at the crying Roland in front of him. Saying that this guy told him not to hang around that mother and daughter, and now seeing Ruby dancing with him with his own eyes. Watching him being affectionate towards her, his heart was as bitter as if he had swallowed a sour date. Yet he had to smile and hide his emotions. After the dance, this guy was extremely embarrassed. After all, he had never performed in front of people before. The graceful assistant eagerly offered drinks. Your dance was so dreamy. I never thought I'd see you dance in my lifetime. This angered him so much he wanted to gouge out everyone's eyes. And among these people, there was indeed someone who wanted to blind himself. This guy turned around to see his father looking at him with a serious expression. Inevitably, the father and son got into another argument. Can't you dress properly? What kind of appearance is this? Ignoring the verbal battle between the two, the little assistant continued to flatter. Madam, you're truly an elf incarnate, so graceful that one can't take their eyes off you. Even this guy was completely captivated by you. Ruby laughed really. Was he? But his expression at that time was indeed a bit peculiar. As she was reminiscing, Aaron and the blonde guy also came over. I didn't expect you to dance so well. It makes me want to learn to dance too. Wow, even the goddess was praising her. Hurry and write a letter to the Pope asking him to let you go home. Ruby suddenly felt full of confidence. She should let this guy hear this too. However, when she turned her head, she found that both father and son who were just arguing had disappeared. Hearing this, Aaron sighed in relief. It's good they changed locations. Otherwise, it would have been too embarrassing. Ruby was confused. She had just seen that the father's expression wasn't good. It's nothing serious. He probably saw his brother dancing with you and felt his days were numbered. The little assistant chuckled behind their backs. Only Ruby looked completely bewildered. As soon as this guy walked away, someone was ready to stir up trouble. Yulia looked angrily at the little assistant. It's the first time I've seen Andy since that incident. There was a moment of silence. The little assistant awkwardly scratched the back of his head. Then, muttering that he had something to do, he hastily fled. It seems he's still uncomfortable seeing me. Ever since he had a conflict with my brother, he's been avoiding me. Ruby curiously asked what had happened. It turned out that after Ruby was kidnapped by Bubble that day, Andy and Roland had a big fight. But did this matter really need to be brought up here? Fortunately, the knights didn't know the details, so the topic was dropped. So rather than hating her, he seemed more like he was guarding against her. Then Ruby was pulled by Yulia to a table where the ladies had gathered. Surprisingly, after just one dance, the ladies who previously didn't like Ruby were now all asking her to teach them southern dance moves. Ruby gracefully twirled around. She really hadn't expected to have a moment of getting along with everyone. This is nothing. This guy dancing really surprised me. It seems men do change after marriage. The girls were enthusiastically gossiping about her and his guy. Ruby shyly played along. Unexpectedly, someone spoke with a sarcastic tone. If Madam loves your husband so much, why did you run away from home? Is there some reason you can't talk about? Knowing the woman was implying she had poisoned someone and fled out of guilt, Ruby pretended not to hear. I was indeed immature at that time. Perhaps it's because the Southern culture is so open. Not really free, the South is actually stricter. If my family were here, they'd probably give me a good scolding. The scheming woman's attack hit nothing but air and she had a shut her mouth. But since her running away from home was mentioned, everyone present naturally expressed their concern. However, how much of it was genuine was up for debate. Seeing her bitter smile, Aaron sympathetically patted her head. When they came to their senses, both were stunned. As they were feeling awkward, someone brought up the poisoning incident again. Her clumsy act was completely worthless in front of him. Since that's the case, she decided to go all out. Fortunately, Miss Yulia is fine now. Who could have done such a heartless thing? I hope the culprit is caught soon. The green tea girl quietly finished a glass of wine. While saying let's not talk about this, her eyes meaningfully glanced at Ruby. Ruby inwardly rolled her eyes, so Yulia was suspecting her. After all, she was the prime suspect. She couldn't blame her for that. She couldn't help but recall the horse race. When Yulia left her behind, was it really not intentional? After experiencing so much, Ruby now didn't dare trust anyone. Rather than being a fool and getting stabbed in the back, it was better to hide her true thoughts. This was her best choice for survival because her thoughts were in chaos. She decided to go to the bathroom to calm down. She had to be very careful. If another special situation occurred, Iskai and his sister might completely despise her. Moreover, he knew about her relationship with the monsters. She desperately wanted to understand what Iskai's feelings for her were. Was it just a whim and a moment of despair, or was it out of pity? She was afraid this was just a dream, and when she woke up, she'd be sent back to that hellish home. No, I don't want that. Tonight, I must win him over. However, just as she walked out of the bathroom, she heard several women's mocking voices in the corridor. Ruby shouted at the departing man, but I don't want to do that. What's the best way to defeat a green tea bitch? Of course, it's to be even more of a bitch than her. As a veteran player who had pretended to be a White Lotus for over 10 years, Ruby was well versed in this, so facing several women gossiping about her. She didn't argue or make a fuss. She directly lifted the curtain, then cried profusely, I really didn't do anything, I didn't poison anyone, I didn't seduce my own brother, and I didn't run away from home on purpose, I can't explain any of this. She just covered her face. Indeed, someone like me shouldn't be here. The women panicked, frantically trying to explain that they were just talking nonsense. But Ruby didn't care about them. She turned around crying, saying she would go find Iskai right now to get a divorce. The gossipers were stunned. If she really told Iskai, it would be disastrous. In their anxiety, they started crying too. Madam, please don't cry, we misunderstood, please forgive us. Don't think I don't know, you're comforting me just because you're afraid this guy will find out and punish you. But at this point, Ruby knew it was time to stop the act. Really? You really believe me? Yes, of course, thank you. Then I won't mention divorce to my husband. Thank you so much, madam. After finishing the act, Ruby felt mentally and physically exhausted. How long would she have to live each day walking on eggshells like this? At this moment, fireworks started outside the palace. Because I like you, to survive, she eagerly confessed to her husband. The balcony was crowded with people watching the fireworks, but Ruby wasn't in the mood to enjoy them. She was thinking about how to win over Iskai tonight. Unexpectedly, as she was squeezing through the crowd, suddenly someone behind her called out, "Excuse me, Miss Labia." Then there was a loud thud. The sound of fireworks drowned out the noise. By the time Andy found her, Ruby was in too much pain to stand up. Who was that person? Since they knew her name, it couldn't have been an accidental step, but she didn't have time to think about it now. Have you seen my husband? At that moment, this guy was chatting with someone in the hall. He saw Andy approaching with his tear-stained wife. Before he could finish speaking, Ruby lost her balance and fell onto him. Pressed against her husband's 8-pack abs, she felt too embarrassed to face anyone. How humiliating, she didn't dare to look up. Seeing her motionless for a while, Iskai wondered, did she faint? It would have been better if she had. Realizing his wife was just embarrassed, Iskai picked her up. What's the matter? But Ruby still buried her face in his shoulder, refusing to turn around. I really look like such a fool, you're not foolish at all. It's okay, Ruby finally raised her head slightly. Even though the man's eyes flashed with hostility upon hearing it, she didn't back down at all. Why are you crying? Did you get in trouble again in such a short time? I'm not a child. Leaning her head on his chest, Ruby said softly, I'm in pain, so I thought of you. Pain? Where does it hurt? Ruby hesitated for a moment. She was afraid that because of her foot injury, their first night together would be ruined again, but she still couldn't help coming to his side. My foot hurts so much. After taking off her shoe, everyone saw. Her toes were swollen and misshapen. This guy's face immediately darkened. He asked through gritted teeth who did this. Never mind, I'll investigate myself. He picked up his wife and strode away. The blonde wanted to advise him to calm down, but was scared off by his murderous look. See, does anyone still doubt that his guy is just putting on an act? Ruby only then remembered that once this man gets angry, no one can stop him. This was bad. Even when the green tea childhood friend tried to come forward to greet them, she only heard his cold get lost. Yulia widened her eyes in disbelief. She turned to follow his guy's departing figure. She saw the man fiercely responding to his wife's words. That bastard, what exactly did he say to you? He made you come to me in such pain. He seemed certain and convinced that someone had threatened and hurt her. Because you're the first person to save me from danger like yesterday, so I've hopelessly fallen in love with you. But before she could finish speaking, the man had already taken big steps. Ruby slowly reached out her hand. She buried her face in his guy's embrace. Honey, I came because I missed you. I hurriedly looked for you because my foot hurts so much. I didn't expect you to get so angry. This move caught the people downstairs off guard, giving them an unexpected dose of PDA. However, Iskai did calm down. Andy, I'll leave the rest to you. Then, without looking back, he carried his wife out of the banquet hall. While Ruby was bandaging her foot, Iskai silently observed her every move. Her shoes were so dirty, yet she told him it was nothing. Meanwhile, Ruby was secretly regretting in her heart. It seemed both the banquet and their first night would be ruined. What if he thought she was troublesome again and wanted to send her back to Rome? But he had promised not to send her back. Could she trust him? Could she really trust the man who could turn from kind to cruel in an instant? Thinking of this, she looked up to see the man's expression, but caught sight of the turtle figurine in front of the sky. A feeling of fear instantly spread through her limbs, causing her to shudder involuntarily. At this moment, Ruby hesitated slightly and her brother approached from behind. The touch on her cheek made her skin crawl. He walked away, leaving only the onlookers cheering wildly for her. This reaction didn't escape his guy's notice. After the maid finished treating Ruby's foot, he immediately ordered the maid to remove the turtle as well. Just as Ruby was feeling confused, he suddenly asked, "Did you really not see who did this?" Ruby was startled. "Why, yes, I really didn't see. I'm not lying, this guy sat down beside her. I don't think you're lying. It's just that with your foot injured like this, the banquet will have to end early. Are you disappointed? It would be a lie to say I'm not, but what Ruby wanted most was something else. I want to be with you all night tonight. His sister just didn't want to marry. Yet her brother cruelly killed her pet, watching that disgusting turtle slowly devour her little bird. She felt as if struck by lightning. That little bird was the first gift she received in this world. Ruby wasn't surprised by this outcome at all. After all, her husband's attitude was already much better than she had imagined. She had carefully raised it. She knew her brother was psychologically disturbed, and she knew her own situation that she had no power to resist, but she still stubbornly caused its death. From that day on, whether fake turtles or real ones, they would involuntarily instill fear in her. When her husband asked why she was afraid of turtles, she almost impulsively told him the truth. But in the end, she held back. Who would believe that Hastina's cloud dog was just a puppet manipulated by the family? I was just bitten by a turtle before. Iskai believed her. Why didn't you say so earlier? I would have cleared them all out. Seeing her husband's thoughtful expression, Ruby was momentarily stunned. What? I said with me here, you won't have to suffer anymore. Her heart fluttered for a moment. The garden her husband had lovingly created for her was now in full bloom, as beautiful as the legendary Hanging Gardens of Babylon that was built by the king of Babylon to ease his lover's homesickness. Now it seemed this fortune had fallen upon her. This guy became a bit talkative at this point. After discussing the turtle issue, he began to inquire about her family. Why are you suddenly interested in this? Is it strange for a husband to ask about his wife's family? So after behaving for a few days, Ruby dressed up to attend a banquet held at the palace. I'm meeting your brother soon, right? It's better to know early to prepare. Ruby hesitated because every time she mentioned her family to her ex-husbands, it never ended well. They had somehow learned about the rumors between her and her brother, and each time they would roar, questioning her relationship with him. She had actually thought that those disgusting rumors were deliberately spread by her brother. You just didn't want to see her getting along with her husband. Even though she had become a tool for political marriage, he still used various tricks to make her return to his side. Thoughts racing, Ruby chose a topic unrelated to herself. Although my brother was supported to be the next pope, he would rather become a knight. He can't live as freely as our second brother. Every word and action must meet the standard of a holy man. I see, don't you miss them? Ruby smiled bitterly, not that much, I suppose. Her expression was clearly visible to his sky. Did I ask something I shouldn't have? Oh no, I just forgot to manage my expression for a moment. No, this is my home now. Besides, my family isn't exactly a welcome topic here. And by here, I mean including my mother. Ruby quickly changed the subject. Look, the bird cage in the garden hasn't been hung yet. She tried to stand up as she spoke. She hadn't seen this guy for days, only hearing that the holy nights were especially busy in summer. It seemed she would have to attend the banquet alone. Unexpectedly, his sky grabbed her hand. He then put a bracelet on her wrist. This bracelet is said to promote good health. Then, surprisingly, he handed her a key. Ruby could hardly believe her eyes. She stammered, "This is the key to the mansion's warehouse. How can I accept it?" The man crossed his arms nonchalantly. "It's because it's you that I agreed to this." Ruby was stunned. Controlling a family's warehouse was like controlling the family's lifeline. Iskai was entrusting such an important thing to her care. Why is he being so good to me? Feeling moved. 1,000 words of thanks are not as good as a direct kiss. I really like it. The impact of this kiss reached deep into Iskai's heart. Ruby took the chance to stand up. Let me show you something interesting. She took a few steps forward, lifted her skirt, and danced gracefully among the flowers. See, my foot is fine now, but the next second her foot twisted again. Seeing his wife about to fall again, this guy rushed forward and caught her slender waist. Unexpectedly, she ran into her sister-in-law as soon as she came downstairs. Wow, how could she forget such a dazzling goddess? What did I tell you? Be more careful. His words were scolding, but his expression was full of concern. Seeing his wife still insisting she was fine, he sighed helplessly. How can you be better? By the way, did you dance like this in front of the twin dragons before? Ruby was confused. Why would she dance for dragons? This guy affectionately tapped her nose because that would explain why the twin dragons wanted to kidnap my wife. After all, my little darling is so talented. The atmosphere was clearly meant for her to seduce him, but somehow she ended up being the one charmed. This guy seemed to suddenly remember something. You should go back and rest early tonight. Then he gently brushed her long hair. You're covered in dirt. I'll have someone prepare a bath for you. Ruby was displeased when she heard this. They hadn't done the main thing yet. How could he give up this great opportunity just because of a minor foot injury? I don't want to, she said, suddenly wrapping her arms around Iskai's neck. I'm scared. You need to make it up to me. Fortunately, she married into this family. Otherwise, such a beautiful and lovely sister-in-law would have almost married her foolish second brother. Scared of what? Iskai's face immediately darkened. Did the new maid dare to bully you? Ruby hurriedly shook her head in denial. Seeing her husband's stance, the maid would surely die for no reason. She lowered her head shyly. I'm just afraid of being alone. After all, everyone is busy in the banquet hall. I just want to spend more time with you. The hint was so obvious. This guy wasn't a fool. He picked up his wife with slight annoyance. What exactly do you take me for? Her husband, who usually never smiled, was actually going to bathe her personally today. This completely bewildered the wife. Although Ruby always wanted to improve her relationship with this guy, but they weren't close enough for this level of intimacy yet. Her heart was racing. She imagined whether she should pounce on him from behind. However, when this guy turned his head, she instantly lost her courage. Do you mind if I use my shampoo? After greeting Aaron, she met her husband's childhood friend, Yuliria. Ruby certainly didn't mind. Taking off the towel on her body, Ruby hesitated for a moment. This time, would it be ruined again because of those scars on her back? Whatever, she thought, and plunged into the bath with a splash. This guy thoughtfully glanced at the crisscrossing scars on her back. Then he squatted down. Shall we wash your hair first? He tried to comb through Ruby's soft hair with his rough hands, but accidentally hurt Ruby in the process. Why don't you lather up some soap first before Kamai? This guy immediately lathered up the soap while apologizing to Ruby, saying he was inexperienced with such things. Those gentle movements, each touch, gave him a feeling both unfamiliar and warm. Aren't you tired? It's fine, but my name isn't that. You might as well call me like you did earlier. Ruby suddenly remembered how she had urgently called out to her husband in public earlier. Her face instantly turned red down to her neck. Then can I call you Iz? Why not? But you haven't called me by my name either, you know. This guy was silent for a moment. How did your hair grow so fine? Trying to change the subject sneakily. As they chatted casually, Ruby glanced at her husband's serious attitude. Unlike her sister-in-law's aloofness, Yuliri was very friendly as soon as she saw Ruby. She even playfully winked when greeting her. Isn't this a bit too serious? He's completely not seeing her as a woman. Her competitive spirit was suddenly aroused. Ruby suddenly called her husband's name softly. Don't you want to join me in here? Now it's my turn to wash you. Unexpectedly, this sentence seemed to irritate Iskai. Do you really take me for a stone? Ruby frantically explained, I just wanted to repay you a little. But Iskai put down her half-washed foot. You'd better finish the rest yourself. Then he stood up to leave. Ruby panicked. She hugged her husband's arm regardless of her appearance. Don't go, I just want to be with you. Iskai froze completely. I won't go, but let go first. But Ruby still clung to him recklessly. Liar, he was clearly about to escape just now. She wouldn't let go as they struggled. His knees slipped just like that. She dragged Iskai and they both fell backwards into the bath. With a splash, water flew everywhere. Ruby opened her hazy eyes only to meet her husband's fierce gaze. Oh no, are you okay? She was worried he would be angry, but completely unaware of how alluring she looked right now. This guy muttered irritably, damn it. With such a likable personality, no wonder in this family, even the servants liked her very much. Then he suddenly scooped Ruby out of the water and strode up to the bedroom upstairs. Normally, this should have been a sweet moment. But for Ruby, being suddenly carried away like this was always the prelude to her getting beaten. Iskai put her down, stand still, don't turn around. Ruby trembled as she looked at her own feet. She regretted it immensely. It was her fault all because of her momentary impulse. If it hurts later, she'll just endure it. As she was lost in thought, a soft towel was placed on her head. Iskai gently wiped the water droplets from her hair. Aren't you angry? What do I have to be angry about? But why? Why was he always so gentle? Seeing the scars on her back, Iskai paused while wiping her. He reached out and gently stroked those hideous scars. Ruby suddenly came to her senses. She quickly wrapped herself up in the towel again. I'm a bit shy, she explained. Her scars were from being punished for being too mischievous as a child. She wasn't mentally prepared to reveal her poor and miserable past to him. She also didn't know how to face those eyes of his, full of deep affection. She was afraid that his feelings for her were just temporary pity and responsibility, easily overturned in the face of new challenges. Although she had been trying to change the plot, attempting to use her own power to prevent Aaron from being poisoned. Ruby also smiled and said she was very pleased to meet her. Euleria exaggeratedly pulled Aaron, exclaiming how cute the madam was and why she hadn't said so earlier. In reality, it seems she couldn't change anything. Iskai broke the silence. I didn't expect Xingxia to be so strict with you. It's really absurd, she smiled bitterly. I'm quite speechless about myself too. It's not the first time I've seen it, yet I still feel shocked. Ruby tried to keep her voice calm. After all, it was my own fault. However, her tears fell like broken beads, dropping incessantly. I'm sorry, I'm not crying. This guy held her hand that was wiping away tears and pressed it against his forehead. Half self-approach, half pleading, don't cry. Every time you cry, I don't know what to do. Because he couldn't do anything, he felt like he was going crazy. What do I need to do to make you feel at ease? In the past, he always avoided her under the guise of understanding. Not knowing this was the greatest harm to her. Now you can still choose to leave here. Tell me your thoughts, I'll do anything for you. If you choose to stay, even if you regret it later, I'll never let you go. But Ruby had no other choice long ago. She was lucky after all, at least someone was willing to spend a lifetime with her in this cursed cage. Even if she were to choose 100 or 1,000 times, she would answer without hesitation. I want to spend this life here with friends with you. The lovers embraced and kissed tightly, two passionate hearts never to be separated. I love you too. From the moment our eyes met, I knew that tonight might bring us blessings or it might bring us curses. But even so, I still stood by your side without hesitation. As the solemn bells of the temple rang out, Ruby and Iskai finally became true husband and wife. She felt disgusted and resistant inside. Despite her internal reluctance, she verbally expressed willingness. This series of actions would make anyone think this girl was truly different. It was only at this moment that the heavy stone in Ruby's heart finally settled, and along with this change came invitations to various social gatherings. This also meant that she had finally gained everyone's recognition. Unlike Ruby's eagerness to interact with people, her sister-in-law felt that she didn't need to agree to everything. After all, she had been recuperating since coming to the north, and she also planned to hand over the management rights to her. But Ruby had no confidence in managing the entire Duke's mansion. If I suddenly start managing household affairs, won't everyone be uncomfortable? Unexpectedly, her sister-in-law slapped her thigh. Her face instantly turned cold by 180 degrees. I'd like to see who dares this quick change of expression. Indeed, she's Iskai's sister. If there are such people, just kick them out immediately. Ruby remained silent. She understood her position in this family. Others might be manageable, but if the situation reached the head maid, it probably wouldn't be so simple. Although her hostility towards her seemed to have lessened, if she suddenly got involved in family affairs, the head maid would surely cause trouble. Thinking of this, she still politely declined Aaron's suggestion. However, this time Aaron was very firm. Don't worry, I'll teach you step by step. She actually knew what Ruby was concerned about. You know, I've understood since I was little, especially after Mother passed away. It was the head maid who managed all household affairs. If it weren't for her ambiguous look afterwards. Her feelings for her are deeper than for our own mother. Seeing her mention her mother, Ruby curiously asked, didn't you say before that I resembled her? It's just the eating habits and the scars on the hands that are similar. Her mother was a person extremely obsessed with appearance and luxury. Sometimes she was like a madwoman who had given up on life, hiding in her room, crying all day. Ruby silently looked at her, seeming to empathize. Depression not only causes loss of appetite, but also affects those who love them. Just like her sister in her previous life, Aaron was too young then. She didn't understand why her mother had become like that. She only remembered her parents always arguing at that time. After their mother passed away, the relationship between their father and brother also deteriorated. She guessed that the reason her brother became a holy knight was also to see their mother once again. Even if he had turned into a ghost, it couldn't stop his longing for his mother. This was the first time Erin had opened up about her secrets to someone without any reservations. She was a bit embarrassed. This is a secret just between the two of us. Okay, Ruby's heart raced when she heard the words just between. Of course, you can rest assured 100%. Just as they were getting cozy, a guard suddenly came to report that guests had arrived. Yellow Hair and the others had actually come to find her behind Iskai's back. Even I, the author, would have been fooled. The three of them arrived at the palace together. Ruby felt uneasy. Could it be related to her secret? She quickly sent Erin away, saying she could handle a few gentlemen. Yellow Hair, who kept looking around as soon as he entered, seemed to be hesitating to speak, causing Gray Hair beside him to keep coughing as a reminder. It looked like they needed her help with something. However, Yellow Hair struggled for a long time and couldn't complete a sentence. Gray Hair was so anxious he almost jumped. If we keep dawdling, the sun will set with no choice. Gray Hair had to take on the task himself. Madam, do you know about the twin wolves? Ruby tried hard to recall. She had seen records about the twin wolves in the encyclopedia. The difference between twin wolves and other monsters was that after they died, they not only left behind magic crystals, but also corpses like ordinary beasts, so her impression of them was quite deep. In that case, I'll be straightforward. Madam, can you communicate with the twin wolves? Ruby was confused. As something happened, it turned out that recently, the twin wolves, who never used to leave the forest, had been frequently appearing outside the woods. Although there hadn't been any casualties yet, judging by their aggressive demeanor, it seemed they could go berserk at any moment. Moreover, due to superstition, there was a saying that if the twin wolves were killed before the Holy Year event, humans would face retribution. So rather than taking lives, they thought it would be better to reconcile with the twin wolves. That's why they came to Ruby, hoping she could find out the reason for the twin wolves' sudden agitation. Ruby instinctively wanted to refuse. Erin and Uli quickly blended into the crowd, chatting happily. Ruby felt like an outsider. After all, she had recently promised this guy not to interact with monsters for a while. Moreover, she wasn't sure if she could communicate with monsters. One more thing, will my husband be coming along? Hearing the knight's negative response, and imagining the consequences of them approaching her behind Iskai's back, she shuddered. Despite her fear, Gray Hair's sarcastic manner made her feel determined to go. I said I'm willing to give it a try. Regardless of the reason, they had kept her secret for so long after all. She might as well consider it repaying their favor. Besides that gray hair guy, she swore she'd shut him up. At this moment, Yellow Hair pushed over a bag of chocolates. It's not much, but please have some. Following the group to where the twin wolves appeared, the howling of wolves was terrifying. Although the wolves opposite with their gaping bloody mouths were frightening, the observant Ruby still noticed a problem. I want to get a closer look. The group protected her as she moved forward. Ruby was surprised to discover that this was the alpha of the wolf pack. Yellow Hair quickly told her to hide behind him, but Ruby insisted on going forward alone. The strange yet familiar environment reminded her of attending banquets in Rome. Those who wanted to build connections with her father and brother always tried their best to please her. The alpha wolf only retreated 2 steps when it saw her. As Ruby removed her hood and greeted it, the alpha's fierce gaze suddenly turned sorrowful. It sat down and completely lowered its guard. Ruby tried to sense the alpha's current state of mind. Although she couldn't communicate verbally, she could feel its deep sadness and anger. Suddenly, she shouted and dove behind the knight's here. There's a leg. Sure enough, half a wolf leg appeared next to the pack. However, after observing for a week, they didn't find any wolves missing a leg in the pack. At this moment, the alpha wolf circled around the leg, making whimpering sounds similar to crying. Ruby understood. It was sad because it couldn't find the owner of this leg. Perhaps this was why the wolf pack was behaving abnormally. From the cross-section of the severed leg, they deduced that it was likely the work of nearby poachers. Yellow Hair and the others were immediately enraged. Those bastards, just wait till I get my hands on them. Ruby was left behind to wait, with only Gray Hair staying to protect her. Just as she was worrying if the leg's owner might already be dead, someone thoughtfully handed her a blanket. After all, in others' eyes, she was indeed an object of envy. But who knew what a miserable life she led in private? As she was reminiscing, someone approached her. Looking closely, she realized it was Andy. This stunned both her and Gray Hair. Where Andy was, could this guy be far behind? To prove she was somewhat useful, she had snuck out with several men behind her husband's back. But before the matter was resolved, she was caught red-handed. Without a word, this guy gave Gray Hair a good beating. Her husband's murderous expression made Ruby a bit nervous. It was my idea to come see the twin wolves. It has nothing to do with them. Seeing his wife blinking her big eyes, nervously clutching her skirt, this guy reached out his big hand and caressed her dirty little face. Look how dirty you've become. No wonder he was so anxious with his little wife getting into trouble every other day. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. If you want to defend him, at least put your hat on. It's so cold and you're getting rained on. Are you trying to faint again? Looking at this nagging man, was he really the same cold and straightforward guy from before? The group returned indoors. This guy didn't forget to investigate. So for this little superstition, you planned all this behind my back and even used mere chocolates to bribe my innocent wife. Ruby and Andy, who were secretly munching on said mere chocolates, shrank back a bit upon hearing this. Besides greeting the Pope, more people were curious about her as Iskai's wife. They quickly hid the chocolates in their pockets. Fluffy retorted, "You can call it superstition, of course. After all, you're the king's nephew. But if something bad happens because of this superstition, we're the ones who will take the blame." Just as everyone was about to argue, Ruby stood up to mediate. "Everyone, please calm down." Unexpectedly, her husband turned on her. "And you too. Didn't you promise me not to interact with monsters? What if they had attacked you? Do these guys look like they could defeat the twin wolves?" Ruby knew the dangers, but she had always been causing them trouble. She felt guilty and wanted to find a chance to repay them. However, before she could finish explaining, her nose started bleeding again. Who dared to talk nonsense in front of his wife? Ruby hurriedly waved her hands to explain. Last time she had caused everyone so much trouble searching for her, and they had to help her conceal the twin dragons incident. Moreover, it was because she awakened the twin dragons that everyone was put in danger. More importantly, she didn't want to be a burden to Iskai anymore, so she wanted to help as much as she could with her limited abilities. Even if it's in this way, I just want to be helpful. That's really all there is to it. After she finished speaking, the room fell silent. The men were moved to tears. Her husband stroked her head. "You don't need to worry about these things. You've never been a burden to me." Just as Ruby didn't know how to respond, Aaron stood beside her. The most urgent matter now was still resolving the twin wolves issue. After capturing and interrogating some poachers, they brought the wolf back to where the pack was found. They thought this would solve the problem. However, after removing the restraints on the wolf, they discovered it was actually a female. This is the alpha's mate. This is trouble. Seeing its mate injured like this, the alpha wolf wouldn't retreat quietly. After watching Iskai bandage the twin wolves, Ruby carefully asked if they could heal it. "You don't need to worry about that. The monsters, after all, just eat some twin mushrooms and they'll recover quickly." Ruby curiously asked what twin mushrooms were. "It's what you threw in my face earlier." "Oh, that's what it was. I was in a hurry to save you at that time." As they were talking, the sound of wolf howls came from afar. Iskai was about to take the female wolf over by himself, remembering the fierce look of the alpha wolf. Ruby thought that even Iskai couldn't resist a pack of wolves. Thinking of this, she hurriedly grabbed her husband's sleeve. She indicated that she wanted to go along. Blondie smiled and told her not to worry. This guy had fought even fiercer monsters when he was an apprentice knight, but Ruby still insisted on going. As they were arguing, the injured female wolf let out a painful moan. Muttering, "These people are so annoying." Ruby went over to comfort her. "Good girl, it's all right, you'll be home soon." Seeing the agitated female wolf immediately calmed down, Ruby felt quite proud. See, she was somewhat useful after all, but this guy remained firm. Seeing that being tough wouldn't work, Ruby immediately changed tactics. She put on a pitiful expression, "But I just want to stick with you." All right, he gave in. The two arrived where the wolf pack was gathered. As expected, the alpha wolf was on the verge of going berserk. Ruby wanted to persuade her husband to speak nicely. But she knew his temperament. Not provoking others was already considered good-tempered for him, so when this guy put down the female wolf, she apologized along with him. Fortunately, the alpha wolf was understanding. He slowly approached his wolf wife and gently nuzzled her head. Their intimate behavior was something many human couples couldn't match. Ruby and Iskai held hands, reluctantly looking back at this loving couple. She wondered if she and Iskai would be this happy and content in the future. To her surprise, Huamo, who had always been critical of her, completely changed his opinion after this incident. Thank you, madam, you've been a great help this time. Ruby smiled. She was genuinely happy. Since coming to the north, she had always been misunderstood and disliked. This was the first time someone other than her husband had acknowledged her. Ruby froze completely. Was this really what her goddess said? Suddenly, Yuli greeted someone at the entrance. Seeing her so happy, this guy also felt gratified. You're always causing trouble, a bag of chocolates, and you follow them eagerly. How could it be because of chocolates? I came because I thought you might be here too. No matter when I only think of you. Is that so? So you came to see me, that's why your little face got all dirty. So you don't like me like this, how could I not? I just want to wash it for you. A deep lingering kiss ended this thrilling day. This guy picked up Ruby and placed her on the horse. All right, let's go home then. Ruby never thought that one day the word home would make her heart yearn. Okay, let's go home. The sunset here was brilliant and dazzling, but it couldn't illuminate the sordid black robe figures in the darkness. The last attempt to harm Ruby had instead promoted her relationship with this guy. Now they were fretting about how to report back to the Red Cardinal. Her parents praised her for being obedient. Her brother gently pinched her forehead. It was her husband who had arrived, facing Ruby's greeting. And their failure also revealed the spy lurking in the north. It was the archbishop that Ruby had always suspected, who was also Euleria's uncle. The young couple finally had no more barriers between them, ushering in the happiest and sweetest time. Even when this guy went to work, they would linger for a long time. While I'm away, don't let yourself be lured away by chocolates again. After his wife's 3 promises, Iskai reluctantly stood up to leave. Hearing that Ruby was hosting a tea party in the afternoon, he thoughtfully asked if she needed anything else. After all, he still lacked understanding of her and couldn't clearly know her needs. This also reminded Ruby, although she thought she knew Iskai well, all her knowledge about him came only from descriptions and novels. In reality, she knew very little about what kind of person he was in real life. At this moment, the man reached out his hand. He embraced her again. Damn, I really don't want to leave. I'll come back as soon as possible. Wait for me at home. Okay, since her birth, this period was the most comfortable time Ruby had ever experienced. So comfortable that she even doubted, can I really be this happy? Even if it turned out to be just a dream in the end, she wanted to immerse herself in the current happiness. Iskai only gave a cold glance. He immediately turned away, leaving his wife awkwardly standing in the wind. While the maids were arguing about which earrings suited her best, her father-in-law unexpectedly came to visit. After some aimless small talk, he asked about the treasury key. Ruby initially thought her father-in-law didn't trust her and wanted to take the key back. To her surprise, the old man said she could use whatever she liked. Then he noticed the bracelet on her wrist. It's good that this ended up with you. My son took the necklace without permission earlier and I was worried about it. Don't be fooled by its appearance. This is our family heirloom. Grandfather made it from the heart of an ankylosaur. Only the mistress of this family can possess it. Ruby was instantly shocked. Such a shining gemstone was actually a dragon's heart. No wonder her father-in-law didn't look pleased at the banquet that day. He must have been unhappy seeing her wearing this. Just as she was thinking this, the old man apologized to her. The banquet was originally to honor Ruby, but his son's outfit was too eye-catching. Ruby could only laugh it off, saying it was fine. Compared to his son's feelings for Ruby, the Duke seemed more concerned about whether his daughter-in-law truly wanted to stay here. After all, the North was relatively poor, while Ruby was born in a wealthy place. At first, he thought the pampered little princess would definitely cry and seek help from the temple within 2 days. Unexpectedly, she seemed to have no dependence on the temple. Was this the test if she had any private dealings with the temple? Ruby could only say that she felt sleepy when hearing him. It seemed his daughter-in-law really liked it here. The Duke stopped beating around the bush. Yuli beside her felt indignant on her behalf. Madam, let's go confront him. He directly asked if she liked this place or liked this guy. After hesitating for only a second, Ruby skillfully entered her acting mode. The moment I first saw him, I felt deeply in love. Her father-in-law seemed to understand immediately. You mean that feeling of destiny? Yes, exactly that. Are you sincere? Just as Ruby didn't know how to answer, the old man coughed lightly. It's not that I don't believe you. It's just that you always remind me of someone. That person always gave me a cautious feeling. Unexpectedly, beneath your father-in-law's seemingly rough exterior was a perceptive heart. The unmasking of her pretense didn't bring embarrassment but care. I am sincere. For myself and for Iskai, I am sincere. The afternoon tea party was held as scheduled. It took place in the garden that Iskai had personally built for her. Originally, she thought such a display of affection might be too showy, but her sister-in-law said good things should be shown off. So she continually accepted the admiration of the noble ladies. That's right, I'm showing off. So what? It also fit her naive countryside persona. The atmosphere was good, but some people always had to ruin it. I heard that if a person changes suddenly, they might die. We're very healthy. Nothing will happen, such a good face, but with such a mouth. Unfortunately, Euleria was Aaron's close friend, where one was the other would be. Ruby had to swallow her discomfort. It's good, it's good. I haven't been vomiting much lately. Otherwise, I'd definitely throw up all over her face. Ruby clenched her fists. Anyway, Iskai's neglect of her was already common knowledge. Just then, Blondie came to pick up a sister. Not only did he successfully take his sister home, but he also attracted all the remaining ladies away. As Ruby was marveling at Blondie's popularity unexpectedly, Yuri approached her again to talk. Then she turned around and surveyed the garden. This courtyard is really nice. I heard Isk designed it himself. Ruby was too tired to entertain her anymore. Just as she was thinking of an excuse to slip away, Yuri suddenly asked, "So are you satisfied now?" What do you mean?" the green tea bitch repeated with a gloomy face. "I mean exactly what I said. Are you satisfied now? Or let me put it another way, are you happy now?" seeing Ruby still looking confused. The green tea bitch's gloomy face turned smug. "In my opinion, someone like Madam would be content just to have a stable life, regardless of who the partner is." Ruby still laughed it off, pretending not to understand. What a strange thing to say. "I have no intention of leaving Iskai." Seeing that Ruby wasn't taking the bait, the green tea bitch wasn't upset. A cold smirk of triumph curled her lips. "Are you really not understanding or just pretending not to understand? Iskai is the king's most beloved nephew, with the excellent bloodline of the Palantana royal family. Compared to a little princess with heretic blood like you, he has a greater chance of becoming the next monarch. In any case, if he inherits the throne, his spouse will determine the future of the North. Do you think this guy will always be controlled by fallen heretics? Or will he ascend to that high position they dare not look at directly? So no matter what she did next, it wouldn't be worse than the current situation. In his eyes, Ruby is just a delicate flower raised in a castle. Even if willing to marry into the North, it's just for novelty. In Iskai, he's just never seen someone like her as delicate as a doll. Iskai has momentarily lost his senses. One day when he wakes up, Ruby's good days will be over. But Ruby doesn't need her to tell her about the fickleness of human hearts. She speaks as if she knows Iskai very well, who gave her that position. I find it amazing. You just complained so much about me, but my husband has never mentioned you to me. Yuri's face stiffened as her sore spot was hit directly, but she quickly regained her composure. I guess he's afraid you'll see me as a rival. Isn't this another way of him caring for me? She insisted, though clearly dying of jealousy inside. But she kept emphasizing that she, like this guy, had a big picture view and wouldn't forget their original intentions for petty love affairs. But her implication was still that she should be the one Iskai marries. Ruby bluntly exposed her again. Aren't you contradicting yourself? You just said I'm someone who can be satisfied with a little benefit, and then I'm not exclusively for Iskai. But then why do you say I would be hurt because of Iskai and see you as a rival? Simply put, you're just afraid of losing Iskai forever. This statement thoroughly angered the green tea bitch. She strode towards her husband under everyone's shocked gaze. She smiled mockingly, saying Ruby was so arrogant only because she relied on Iskai's protection. What made her even more unbearable was that Aaron, who used to prioritize her, now also took great care of Ruby. But so what? She could easily completely shatter their trust in Ruby. As she finished speaking, there was a sudden splash of water. The tea in her hand was completely spilled on herself. Here it comes to drive Ruby away. The green tea bitch no longer disguised herself, but this tea-spilling trick seemed oddly familiar. Facing the returning crowd, Yuri put on a bitter smile. I'm fine. Maybe Madam misunderstood my meaning. While seemingly explaining for Ruby, she was actually pinning the blame on her. The sister-in-law probably believed her, but on one side was a childhood best friend. On the other was a sister-in-law with newly established trust. She still wanted to hear Ruby's explanation. Ruby clenched her fist tightly. She had underestimated the other's shamelessness. Public opinion once again tilted towards Yuri. She became the victim, while Ruby became the narrow-minded, jealous, evil woman who bullied her husband's friend, faced with Aaron's questioning. She remained silent for a long time before speaking. I didn't do it. She displayed a bright, sunny smile. I'm so happy to see you again. You look very handsome today, too. Ruby knew clearly what the onlookers wanted to see most. Not before, not this time. I've never done anything. The observing noble ladies naturally didn't believe her. Are you suggesting that Miss Lilias staged this herself? Just as they were raising questions, the green tea girl, trembling, spoke softly. It's my fault for angering Madam.